Everybody, glad everybody's here. We may have some other senators joining us a little later. We have a lot of meetings going on today. A lot of running around. Busy time. We're honored to have the big chairman, the real chairman, with us today, Chairman Tillery. Glad you're joining us.
Thanks for letting me sit down.
I'm going to ask Senator Payne if he would open us with a word of prayer, please.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, and we just thank you first and foremost for every blessing that you bestow upon us. What we take none for granted, Father, and we thank you for everything that you do for us and you give to us. We just ask you, Father, if you will lead us and guide us in all the things that we do, that your will be done in all the things that we commit ourselves to do. We ask you to guide us and teach us and show us the way. First, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. All right, we will call the meeting of the Senate Subcommittee on Appropriations for Agriculture and Natural Resources to order. And it looks like first on our agenda is Commissioner Harper, who did a great job at the Georgia Agribusiness Council breakfast this morning. All right, let me see how to, okay, we got you on.
You got, there we go.
All right,
Thank you, Mr.
good.
Chairman. Well, good afternoon. Good to be with y'all. Appreciate the opportunity to discuss our amended budget and specifically what the governor put in the budget, the House did, and then other needs we may have. But good to be here, Mr. Chairman. Just to kind of give you really quick a couple of things just to talk about as far as agriculture is concerned and the department. Just so we get about 81% of our funding from the state, about 19% of our funding comes from the feds. So that's kind of how our budget breakdown is at the agency. As you know, there are a number of attached agencies to the Department of Agriculture. I know some of those will be speaking individually to their budgets. So we're just going to focus specifically on the department budget, so to speak, as we go through our conversation today. I think just a couple of things to hit on when it comes to agriculture. The USDA just released the numbers. It's expected that net farm income will be down by 25%, which is startling when it comes to agriculture. And yesterday, the court in Arizona kicked out the ability to use dicamba in agricultural row crop operations, which is another hit to agriculture. And so it's definitely those things that we've got to ensure this industry continues to be successful. And I would argue that the agency that oversees the industry has got to be successful for our number one industry to succeed. And that's where this conversation comes in when it comes to the resources we need for us to operate every single day, to have the tools we need to ensure that our number one industry continues to be successful. And so I appreciate our work together in making that happen, whether it's on mental health and our partnerships in that, or the work we do in protecting and promoting agriculture every single day. So I just wanted to throw this up here just to put this in perspective. And this isn't everything that we do. This is just in our operational unit at the department, but we are a vast agency with everything that we do. Feed, seed, fertilizer, state veterinarian, from meat inspection to plant protection to spraying bugs, our lab network and everything in between, gas pumps, grocery stores, you name it. We do a lot at the agency, and about 500 employees strong, but we have 85 vacancies, and so we're going to continue to work on those every day, and we'll get more into that, how we can address those in the big budget, because there's some additions in the big budget that will help us in that, but to specifically stick to the amended. Really quick, in the amended budget last year, y'all included some funds. We appreciate it. SART dollars specifically for our state agricultural emergency responses that we have. Just to hit on those really quick, we've been dealing with the yellow-legged hornet. We dealt with some hurricanes, some freezes, and tornadoes and hail this year. And we also had a AI outbreak back in November. And so those funds go a long way in helping us as an agency to respond to those specific incidences, as well as have our team prepared to do that. And so we appreciate that funding and definitely look forward to to having a continued conversation and allowing us to have those emergency funds available for us to continue to respond to these issues as they arise. AI is one of those issues. It's not a if anymore, it's a when. And so we've got to continue to ensure that we're as prepared as possible and have the resources available to respond to those incidents to ensure that we get them addressed as quickly as possible. And so we appreciate that added money last year in the budget to help us with that. As far as the farmers markets, it's always a conversation, and so we've been just wanting to give you an update on where they are as far as what they've been doing. This is over the last year. For the most part, we've turned a lot of our markets around. We're down only to 3 now that are in the red. But as you can see, farmers market net the state about $4.2 million. We get about $3 million or so to operate the markets across the state. So we've been doing what we can to put the money where we need to ensure that all the markets are successful. We've been utilizing the trust fund to do some of that as well. All you should have received the trust fund report that we put together laying out the issues we've been having at the markets and where we've been spending those dollars to ensure that our farmers market continue to be successful, and we're going to continue to work to do that. Diving off into the amended and what's before you has passed the House or will be passing the House and will be coming over, I should say. We're very appreciative of the governor and the add of the $1,000 supplement. That's in the budget for all our employees, and that covers also the federal portion. As many of you know, I said earlier, we're 80-20 on state federal funded. We have positions that are 50-50 funded by state and federal dollars. The $1,000 supplement that was included by the governor that we have already spent, it's gone out the door. So we would appreciate making sure we get that money back. But all of that was covered for our federally employees that get federal funds. They also were able to the $1,000 was fully funded for all employees, including those paid by federal dollars. So I think that's important to note, and we appreciate those dollars and appreciate the help on that. Definitely appreciate the help of the governor and the money that they put in the original budget. I know that they included funds for the EV charging program. The House struck those funds out of the budget due to expected delayed implementation, as I understand it. As y'all know, Senate Bill 446 was passed last year. Right now, under current law, we're required to implement this in January of this next year. And so without the appropriate funding to do that, we won't be able to do that. But if the program is delayed, we would be interested in having a conversation around a pilot project to give us some funds to establish a pilot project on what that would look like and how we would address this going forward before we do spend a significant amount of money on the program. I think that may be a smart way to approach this, and it gives us an opportunity to explore the equipment that's available so we can be as best prepared when this program officially comes online. Now, whether that's January of this next year or maybe the following year, obviously, that conversation is still ongoing. We look forward to that continued conversation, but regardless, we're going to implement the program when we're asked to. We just ask that the resources are there to help us do that. The House included or added funds for Georgia Pet Education Campaign. This is specifically related to spay and neuter programs across the state. That's $150,000 for that. And so this would go toward, as I understand it, the department, we would do a pet education portal and campaign to help educate those across the state when related to companion animals and ensuring that everybody knows that the importance of getting them spayed and neutered, and so that was a House ad, and so we definitely support taking care of our companion animals. We're the agency tasked with that, and we look forward to ensuring that we're doing everything we can to allow the general public to know how important it is to do the same. And so our team does that every day, and these dollars will go a long way in helping get that public message out across the state. In addition to that, the House did make some adjustments to the Soul Amendment program, just reflecting the start dates of the positions that you added last year, which we do this, y'all are very aware of how we make those adjustments to start dates in the budget from time to time. So that's what that $94,000 cut is for. It just reflects the official start dates of the positions of the folks that we hired with the funding that you appropriated as last year. As I stated in the big hearing about 2 weeks ago or so, however long it's been now, we of the positions, the 5 positions, 4 of them have been hired. We still have 1 position that has not been hired, and we are working to do that as diligently as possible. So that's where that particular program is. This is a House ad. Last year, all of you know that we passed Senate Bill 220, the Georgia Farmland Conservation Fund. It was carried by Senator Russ Goodman and Representative Robert Dickey. This is a fund that would give landowners an opportunity to decide if they want to put their land in an easement to protect it for ag production purposes only, and it's an opportunity for us to protect agricultural production land in the state. The House put $2 million in this fund. This will give us the opportunity to leverage federal and private dollars to the tune of an additional $4 to $6 million, depending upon how it all works out. So that $2 million could turn into $7 to $8 million, which is huge. And I think that will go a long way in helping us get this off the ground and getting it started and protecting agricultural land across the state of Georgia. The House added one-time funds for planning, strategic plan, long-term plan for the Atlanta State Farmers Market of $500,000 to direct us and the agency to put together a long-term plan on what it looks like, on what the Atlanta Farmers Market and the future of the market will look like. As many of you know, the Atlanta State Farmers Market is the produce hub of the Southeast. It's a huge economic driver in Georgia and in the economy in our state, especially for agricultural products. And the success of the market is viable and it's important. And definitely having the opportunity to really dig in on what that looks like, I think is important to do so. And so that's what that one-time funding is for. In relation to that funding and the bond package for AFY 24, the governor graciously included $50 million for the Atlanta State Farmers Market for us to continue our work there. The House took a haircut on it just a little bit. They included $35 million for the Atlanta State Farmers Market. Look, even $35 million is a strong strategic investment over where we have been as a state on that market in a long time. But I will tell you, I've said this in the hearing, the joint hearing a while back. Based on preliminary studies that we have done, maybe not the in-depth study that we could do with that $500,000, we're looking at $1.3 to $1.5 billion to really renovate the Atlanta State Farmers Market, to get it to a point to where it's state of the art and up to speed. It is a significant investment, and I think it is definitely something worth looking at how we best address that because of the economic engine that market is to our state in jobs, in economic activity, and providing a market access for farmers and producers across the state. I think it's very important. But this $35 million investment will go a long way in helping us. Obviously, we would always appreciate any additional funds the Senate may want to add back to the House's inclusion of $35 million to help us address those needs that we have. The needs at the Atlanta market are long and significant, and we look forward to continuing those conversations on how we can best ensure that the Atlanta market continues to be as successful as possible. The governor included $1.7 million, a little over $1.7 million in his budget for vehicles. The House upped that to $3 million for vehicles for our agency. I'll get to this in just a second to kind of show you why that is important, but we're very appreciative of the addition by the House to bump that to $3 million, as our vehicle fleet is significant and our needs are significant. And the next slide, we'll dive into that a little more. So we're very appreciative to the governor and the House for the work that they did in that. And then the House added $675,000 in the amended capital projects for storage and security updates at the Tifton Lab. These are based off of some assessments we have done on security needs at the Tifton Lab. Our Tifton Lab is very important to our department network and our agricultural network, and those security upgrades are very needed to ensure that we can continue to protect our resources there and protect what we do and ensure that we can protect our people at the same time. I told you we'd get into the vehicles just a little bit, just to kind of throw it out there so you know. I'll run through this really quick. We currently have 58 vehicles that are over the surplus mileage. Of those, 31 have more than 200,000 miles on them. That's about $2.2 million to replace the surplus vehicles. Right now, based on the numbers, actually it's probably more like 10 to 15 additional vehicles that will be over that surplus mileage by July 1st, and probably upwards of 15 to 20 by the end of the year. We currently have almost 60 inspectors in the department that drive their personal vehicle to work. And I believe that is a significant issue. I think the inspectors that work for us, that provide a government role, especially a regulatory role, should be in a state regulatory vehicle with appropriate signage so they are distinguished. So I think it's a safety and security issue for our employees, but I also think it's a consumer protection issue as well. And so we're working to put those inspectors in a vehicle because we believe that they belong in a vehicle. Currently, we're paying them reimbursement mileage to go to work every single day. So by putting them in a state vehicle, it also would do away with the reimbursement mileage in their personal vehicle. And lastly, on this, definitely because of our vehicle needs, and this is something that now as commissioner and looking back on my time sitting in your seat, I don't know that there was a conversation around having an annual conversation about vehicle needs at the department. I think what you're seeing is a backlog of needs that have happened over the last couple of years, and I think if we're able to annualize an opportunity for us to have that conversation to get an annual appropriation to address the vehicle needs we have, we won't have to come with such a large concern all at one time. And so I'd appreciate that conversation as we continue moving forward, but would appreciate any additional funding in this particular arena as well. It's about $4.5 million to address everything that I just spoke about regarding our current vehicle needs as we have it. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to present our budget, our needs, and the amended AFY 24 budget. Obviously, be happy to answer any questions that you may have, but appreciate your work in helping us ensure we have the resources we need to do our job.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good job. I do have a few questions for you. The EV regulation would be inspecting EV chargers like you do the fuel tanks.
Gas pumps, yes, sir.
Gas pumps that we have now. I assume it would involve making sure the consumer is getting what's advertised as far as the kilowatts.
That's correct.
That kind of thing. So take specialized equipment, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
I also guess I'm assuming that the House must feel like they can put some money in the big budget since it's got a January 1 effective date.
Either that or they know something I don't about some legislation floating around that may be pushing it back. So,
okay.
Yes, sir.
On the 48.4, which is the soil amendment, it's a kind of a clawback for
Yes, sir.
start date of new positions for
That's
the
right.
soil amendment specialist. When do you expect to have that last one hired?
Mr. Chairman, I would love to tell you tomorrow, because we needed them hired yesterday. It is in process. We have had applications turned in. We're reviewing, working through that process. So I can get you a more specific timeline on that, on where we may be. I don't know exactly where we are. I just know that it is in process, and we are working to hire that position every day. It's the only one that's left, and we've got to get it hired so we can ensure that we fulfill that position so they can continue to get to work and doing their job.
Okay, so you don't, to your knowledge, you don't have like an offer out there. I mean, you don't think you're going to have somebody tomorrow?
No, I'm not going to have somebody tomorrow, but I hope we have somebody in the next 2 weeks. I would hope. That's something that's it's been difficult to hire for, and so we've been working to try to get that position filled as best as we can.
Okay. Going to 49.2, which is the Farmland Conservation Fund.
Yes, sir.
The $2 million that the House put in. You said you could leverage, I guess, grant money, maybe
Yes, sir.
federal grants, or nonprofits might.
Yes, sir.
But my understanding, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is the farmer that owns this land is going to put it in farmland in perpetuity.
That's correct.
Can't ever be developed.
That's correct.
And so that's going to lower the market value of the property. So I guess you'd have it appraised, and they would get paid the difference between the value of the land without the easement. I mean, you're not actually buying the land.
No, you're not buying the land.
You're buying
that's
this
correct.
easement.
You're buying the easement.
And
That's right.
They would be able to continue to farm it.
That's correct.
And I guess their family would be able to, their heirs would.
Anybody that it's sold to could, only purpose that land could be used for is for agricultural purposes.
And I think I know the answer to this, but just for clarification, solar development would breach that covenant, I suppose.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Jumping down, and I'm going to let the committee ask some questions, but I had the benefit of looking at this earlier.
You're the chairman. You get the opportunity to do it first.
49.3, long-term planning for the Atlanta Farmers Market, capital needs. And it gives a little bit of details as to what that might be used for, but is this engineering and design? Is it, what do you anticipate if that were to stay, using that money to do?
So what we would do is, Mr. Chairman, we would work to work with a consulting firm of some sort, or an engineering firm of some sort,
Like a long-range site
to have a
plan
long-term strategic plan for the Atlanta State Farmers Market, and to be able to bring back a plan to the legislature to hand you that says, if we do this is what the farmers market could look like. We could, take multiple routes in what this would look like. But it would be a long-term strategic plan for the Atlanta State Farmers Market.
And some of this has been done, I think, in the past.
There has been some done. About 10 or 15 years ago, there was some work done in that regard. And that's where I get that 1.3 to 1.5 billion number that I tell you. I have escalated that based on that initial look at the market that they did about 10 or 15 years ago. So that's where that number that I get. So I'm not just plucking it out of thin air. We just used an escalator on it based on, current pricing in the market, where we are versus where we were 10 or 15 years ago. But yes, sir.
Well, you and I have spent a lot of time looking at the farmers markets.
Yes, sir.
I've got kind of a keen interest in that, as you do, and I appreciate the report you all sent us not too long ago that, mostly looking at like safety issues that
Yes, sir.
need to be addressed at your farmers markets. But I appreciate the attention you're giving the farmers market. you mentioned that you get about 3 million for the, and I'm assuming that's gate fees primarily.
So, well, it could be from any number of sources, correct? But that's a $3 million appropriation that we get from the legislature to run the state farmers markets. So we don't keep any of the funds at the farmers market. All of that, all the gate fees are turned back into the generals, to the treasury, et cetera. All the rent funds are turned back into the treasury, and that's what we return, is returned back to us is about $3 million.
I'm talking about the gate card, that goes in a trust
Oh, the
fund.
gate, yeah, the gate, sorry. Yes, so the gate card, that card, I thought you,
Not the
my
gate at
apologies.
the farmer's
When you said
market.
gate fees, I thought you were talking about the gate at the farmer's market, my bad. Because there is a gate fee at the farmer's market. So the gate card, the ag tax exemption card, yes, that goes into the agricultural trust fund. The ag trust fund can be used for the farmers markets and other marketing activities. We primarily use those funds on upkeep at the farmers market. So that's an additional about $2 million or so that we get a year in those fees that we spend specifically on capital projects at the farmers market. In addition, the $3 million we get, we primarily spend on operations. So the employees that work for us at the markets, the day-to-day operation of the market, and then we use those trust fund dollars to do those repairs at the market. But as you know, $2 million doesn't go very far when it's a major repair. And that's where this the $50 million the governor put in, or the 35 that the House has, will help us address some of those major issues at the Atlanta market.
So if we invest the 35 million or even better, the 50 million, you would be able to obviously address the safety concerns probably first, but then you could build more cooler space, et cetera, which would then generate more revenue for the state and would potentially be a moneymaker for the state.
Potentially, it depends on how far that money goes, right? I think the last time there was a cooler built on the farmers market. I think you're familiar with that one. I think it cost around $22 million to build that cooler, and so $50 million or $35 million, if you're going to build a cooler, obviously won't go very far. In the amount of cooler in the amount of cooler space that you can build. However, we want to be strategic about it. Some of the major repairs that need to be done, I think, would be priority for us, but we're not going to spend good money after bad, or bad money after good, however you want to say it, because we don't want to repair buildings that we believe need to be torn down long term. I think you get where I'm going. We'll be very strategic about how we spend that money and ensuring it's spent in infrastructure that will allow us to build out the market for a long-term viability, in cooperation with that long-term strategic plan.
Okay. I think this may be the last question I have on the vehicles. If you divide 3 million by 42, you come out to $71,428 a vehicle. I'm assuming because the House bumped it up that you're maybe looking at doing more like 50.
Oh, yeah, or more than that. I would hope we could buy close to 100 vehicles with $3 million. I'd have to do the math on it, but we have it broke down on the sheet with the current state vehicle list, whatever it's called, that we buy vehicles off of, and I'd have to go back and look, but it would be closer to the 75 number for us with the 3 million.
Because like a fuel inspector needs a small, fuel efficient. They don't need a big vehicle. Well, they do have equipment, right?
So a fuel inspector actually has to have a F-250.
Okay.
Because of the equipment that they carry. So it depends on which vehicle we're buying, right? So it could be anywhere from a F-150 or a small, something like a Ford Escape, all the way
They're
to
kinda
a
like a
F-350.
mobile lab, I guess, in
Yes,
a
sir.
way.
It depends on what vehicle we need.
Okay. All right. Any questions, committee? Yes, sir. What's your mic number, 8 or? Yeah.
Commissioners, thank you for your report here. On the gate card, is all stores, all businesses required to accept the gate card?
I believe, Mr. Chairman, I'd have to go back and verify this, but I don't know that all businesses are required to accept the gate card. I think they can individually decide if they're going to accept it. But I can go back and look at that and verify it. I'm not sure about that right now. Can I get back with you on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
One other,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
what kind of vehicle would the commissioner need?
Well, the commissioner currently drives the same vehicle that the old commissioner drove, Mr. Chairman, and it's got 112,000 miles on it, and I proudly drive it every single day, and I look forward to seeing 175,000 roll over. So, yes, sir. I'm being as frugal as I can, and I'm leading the way with my employees at the department and showing to ensure that that we're as efficient and as effective as we can be and utilize the funds that we're appropriated, Mr. Chairman.
Good, Commissioner.
I have a question from Senator Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your work at the department. I want to go back to our discussion about the farmers market.
Yes, sir.
And I understand the House reduced the governor's recommendation. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it was at 50 million, is that
That's,
right?
the governor recommended 50 million, the House has
dropped that.
dropped it to 35. Yes, sir.
And that would limit what you could do on that facility. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that
All
is
right.
correct.
And would you kind of, the big number, that 1.2 billion,
Yes.
1.5 billion, kind of give us
That would be a complete renovation of the entire market from ground up.
and how do you envision that maybe unfolding over what
If
period of
we were,
time?
and I think that's what the strategic plan would be good for. It would be one of those things you could do over a 5 or 10-year period, right? And do it in stages, which it would really need to be done in stages to allow the market to continue to be operational. But that is definitely something that could be done in a 5 to 10-year time frame, which I think would be smart to do it that way. But the way the market is set up, you could definitely do it in almost a square pattern all across that entire market. So yes, sir.
One more question, Mr. Chairman, if I could. How does the Georgia State Farmers Market compare to the competing states in our region?
The Atlanta State Farmers Market is the premier market in the southeast. More than there is a possibility if you sit at a restaurant in the southeastern United States that something sitting on your plate probably come from that market in Atlanta, here at the Atlanta State Farmers Market. It is a viable part of the southeastern economy when it comes to the ag sector, and it plays a viable role across the entire southeastern U.S.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Senator Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a bit confused. I might need some help from my good ag commissioner. But I was down in the chairman's district one day for a ribbon cutting ceremony for a nice new solar farm right along I-75. Great facility. But one of the things they were touting on that solar farm was it's a renewable power source. And by the way, there's this herd of sheep that are being grazed on this solar farm in the pastures where they're growing grass around the solar farm. So I'm kind of curious when I look. One of the things that's allowed in the conservation fund under Senate Bill 220 are pastures, and I'm like, okay, do I classify that as a solar farm? It's got livestock, it's got an animal, dog there that's taking care of the livestock. I was curious, how did you make the determination that a solar farm is not ag? Because I'm confused. When I went to the chairman's district, there were a lot of sheep underneath those solar panels, and I just didn't know what that meant.
To your question, Mr. Chairman, that's something I would like to circle back with you on to make sure I get the best answer possible to give to you. However, the Farmland Conservation Trust Fund advisory panel, the panel that is appointed by the governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker, and myself, at the end of the day, they're the panel that will decide what projects are worthy of the farmland is similar to the way that all the other states do it. So they're the panel that will decide what projects are worthy of the investment. And so obviously, if a case is made for a certain land or land use, that would be something that committee would be take into account before they make a determination on whether or not it would be applicable to that particular project.
Because I know the chairman wouldn't have misled me then, showing that his solar farm was not ag down there.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a follow-up really quick. Senator Anderson, to your question, retail stores are not required to accept the gate card under the law. I was just sent that clarification. I didn't think so, but I was just told that that is correct. So,
Any other questions for the commissioner?
Thank you, Commissioner. Just a little comment that you mentioned about 59 inspector in personal vehicle. I think I like your idea. You said, state inspector, they should be on government vehicle with the proper signage, everything. I think that's, that's good for the state, that's good for the enforcement. And also, I'd like that idea, then annual appropriation. We shouldn't be waiting for all the cars to break down, everything else. So I'll ask, make sure before the next budget, come up with some kind of proposal that every year you can put appropriate some money in it.
That's the plan.
And we don't have to worry about it in the long run.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I appreciate that. Thank you, Senator.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate members of the committee. Good to see all of y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day, and good
Yes.
luck to my fellow counterparts coming behind me. Good to see y'all.
All right, next we'll hear from the Soil and Water Conservation Commission.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Appreciate you inviting me down to discuss the amended FY24 budget. We can be found on page, I believe it's page 6 of your document, and we're referred to as 53. And Mr. Chairman, I did not make a presentation. I've got 3 short and brief things to go over, and then I'll take any questions that you might have. 53.1 is our payback for the one-time $1,000 salary supplement for our employees. Appreciate that, and would appreciate just as much as being paid back for that. That's what that is. So, 53.2 is a little under $31,000 to replace a vehicle. We had just a small passenger vehicle totaled back in the late summer, early fall, and insurance told us it was one of those cases that to fix it would be cost more than what the vehicle was worth. So we put in the request to have that pool vehicle replaced for us, and that's what you see reflected there. And then 53.3 is a house adjustment for increase of $72,000 to kickstart what we're going to call the Master Farmer Program. What the Master Farmer Program will do will enhance what my agency and the soil and water districts across the state are already doing. We're already hosting workshops, we're already promoting conservation, but we're hoping to tie into our other partners across the room, George Cattleman's Department of Ag, and see if we can't make workshops that are one-stop shop. When our producers leave, they know how to go to the FSA office and fill out those required forms. They know all about those programs. And the same thing for our federal partners with NRCS. They understand the programs. They know what they've been taught, what will work on their farms, and they'll be able to better participate in those federal programs. This is not, I want to make sure that we're understood on this. This is not regulatory. This will continue to be you can participate if you want to, but we're adding a little bit of incentive to it. And this $72,000 is just kind of to help kickstart that program with some supplies, materials, promotional, and get us some places contracted to host these events. So.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Y'all wore the commissioner out and asked all your questions to him. I sure do appreciate that.
All right, next, the Georgia Forestry Commission's up next. How are you, Director Lattimore?
I'm doing great this afternoon. Mr. Chairman, how are you doing?
I'm good.
It's a pleasure to be here with your committee today, and to all of the senators on the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here and continue to serve our state Forestry Commission as a director. It's truly an honor and something that I take very serious. And so great opportunity to talk with you about our amended FY24 budget. I look forward to getting into that. I do want to say that I've got Michelle Gray. She's in the back of the room here. She's our CFO for our agency, and she does a remarkable job helping get me prepared to be in front of this group. So, Michelle, thank you for the work you do for me and you do for our agency. Yesterday was Forestry Day on the grounds here. It was great to see so many of you guys support those events. I actually got some pictures, I think, with a couple of you up there. That will probably be circulating on some social media later. But it was great to see all of you guys support forestry and to recognize the value that forestry adds back to our state. You know, for me, kind of the takeaway yesterday and seeing all of the constituents that are connected to the forestry sector convene here on the Capitol yesterday on the grounds here, the takeaway for me was it just reminded me of the enormous really critical value that our organization plays to protect the forestry sector in this state. And it just reiterated to me the enormous, really the value and just reiterated to me the mission of our agency and how important it is to that constituency and how important it is to this state. So I want to say thank you to the governor's budget. I also want to say thank you to the House and some of their additions, and we'll walk through those line by line. But it is not lost upon me, and it's not lost upon our agency that we're in a great financial condition in this state. That's largely in part because of the conservative nature of budgeting that he has done as the governor, as well as this body as the Senate. And I think you guys have put together, we're putting together in front of you some conservative principles and conservative budgets items that will add value to our state long term as we go forward. They're really critical key investments in our agency. On the tracking sheet, it'll be on page 7, section 26 of the Forestry Commission. I would just start by saying under the administration, 164.1. Are we good there, Jack? Is that the right? Okay, all right. Increased funds, again, that's the $1,000 supplement that was awarded by the governor and his team at the end of December to all state employees. That's for that $38,000 there is for our administration. We would certainly, as the two previous speakers have mentioned, that money has been out, and we would love to be for that to be put back in to our budget. You'll also notice on 164.2 there's a transfer of $2.3 million there over to our Forest Protection Department. That was associated with a grant back to counties for land that is owned by the state. The issue that was not funded last year. You can see that it is represented as a negative in the administration portion of our budget. It was not funded in the Georgia Forestry Commission because it was also funded. It was funded in another agency's budget. So I think it was really mistakenly dropped in our budget last year, and it was not funded. But you'll see. We'll talk a little bit more about that once we grab the Protection Department. Under forest management, on page 9, 165.1, that is the $1,000 for our forest management team. That was for their supplement that was given to them in December. That was a total of $88,000, and you'll see that was in the governor's budget, and the House approved that. Move over to forest protection on our page 10, 166.1. Again, that is it's in the middle of the page there. On my page, it's in the middle of the page. That's a $1,000 for employees, the supplement that was awarded to our employees at the end of December. You'll notice that number is much more significant, 457,000. That's because that's the largest department in our agency. Many of those are our first responders and wildland firefighters across the state. 166.2 is the $2.3 million again. You'll see that's where it got moved to, and it's being funded as part of the $8.6 million for our a new radio system, communication system for our agency. That communication platform really it will modernize our communications platform, make it a simpler platform. No longer will we rely just on VHF, the push-to-talk buttons, the old traditional truck radios that you're used to, but this will move to a LTE system. And we're excited about that. It will align us with other state agencies that have already moved to this system, and we hear very positive things back from those agencies, and we look forward to improving and modernizing our communication system. This would replace all that we have in all of our equipment, all of our handheld firefighting. Every one of our firefighters have a handheld unit. This would give them a new unit as well. That we believe that will improve safety on the job, improve our ability to respond and our ability to connect with other state agencies when we respond to state natural disasters. Many people don't realize that about our agency. We are generally one of the first agencies, along with DNR, Georgia State Patrol, and DOT, when there is a tornado, a storm, any kind of natural disaster, we are generally one of the first agencies on the ground working to help that community begin to rebound as quickly as possible. I would say 166.3, you'll notice is a House ad of $260,000 for harrows. More and more private forest owners in this state are asking for harrows instead of the traditional fire plows. We're appreciative that the House added that, and we would ask for your support as we move forward there as well. And then on the page 11, under our tree seedling nursery, obviously there's the $1,000 supplement for those employees as well on 167.1. The significant investment on 167.2 into recapitalizing our nursery operation, our seedling nursery operation, is critical for that nursery's success going forward if we're going to continue as a state to have a nursery that provides what the marketplace is looking for around tree seedlings for their reforestation needs. We will never be an organization that competes with the private market. I want to be clear there. I know we get some calls about that from time to time about our nursery operation. We represent 2 to 3% of the marketplace around seedlings. What we do feel for this state in the nursery world is an avenue for small, non-industrial landowners that are looking for an economic option for trees. What we have lagged behind in is recapitalizing that facility. It's in Byramville, Georgia. In its heyday, it was growing about 35 million trees. Right now, we're doing about 15 million trees. The marketplace in the tree seedling business has moved to containerized seedlings. It's essentially like a plant that you pick up at Lowe's or Walmart when you plant in the springtime. Our operation right now is a total bare root, and this capital, partnering with or combined with some federal funds that we're receiving, would allow us to move part of our operation into a containerized nursery, and I think would be well received and would fulfill the needs of the marketplace here in the state much better than what we are now. Additionally, the margins are better on containerized seedlings, so my anticipation is that within 24 months of starting to produce and sell containerized seedlings that we would begin to be cash positive at that nursery operation, which we are not right now. underneath the current structure we're in. So, Mr. Chairman, I would pause there. That is all I have on the amended FY24 budget. I'll be happy to address any questions that this group may have of us. But in closing, I would just ask for this committee's full support of the governor's budget, which we believe are wise investments in what the House also added into those budgets. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield the floor to you.
All right, thank you, Director. How many Harris do you think you're gonna be able to buy for $260,000? What's the plan?
15.
Okay,
No, what, Michelle, is that? Yeah, 15 to 20. We just addressed that this.
and the 8.6 million for your communication system.
Yep.
Didn't we have money in the budget last year for this, or prior year? It just seems like this is,
Not for us. Other state agencies who received funding for it last year moved to this system last year, and this would just align us with what they have.
okay. Any questions from the committee? Everybody good? Oh, I thought you were saying you were good.
Number 3.
Yes, sir.
Let me look back around, follow back around on your containerized ceilings. We certainly agree with that approach and philosophy, but right now you're saying your ceiling operation is not in a positive position. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if within 24 months you become at least revenue neutral, if not positive, is that true?
That is my intent. Yes, sir.
Hope, and again, you've got to make about a $500,000 or so investment. So what's the ROI on the $500,000?
I have not calculated the ROI on that, Senator Burns. I'd be glad to do that and get that back to you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And I don't deny that it's going to be tough, but I think you have to go to a containerized approach if you're going to stay in the ceiling business.
That is correct. The reason the nursery, and this is getting way down into the grass weeds here, and I can have a conversation offline with any of you guys about this. One of the reasons that the nursery has a hard time being cash positive for us is that around 2011, during some budget cut series, 2010, 2011 series, our seed orchard funding during some budget cut, the previous leaders of our organization used that as a budget cut and funded the seed orchard business with the revenue from the nursery. So that operation cost about $450,000 a year, the seed orchard business, which is enormously valuable to the entire southeast part of our country. And it is a remarkable operation, and we're not going to compromise on that. We have to generate enough revenue to fund that operation to produce seed. We sell seed from Virginia to Texas out of that orchard right in Cochran, Georgia. State of the art, world class, best of its kind, and we can't compromise that. But that's the hard part. We're digging out of that hole.
Thank you. I appreciate your input.
All right, thank you, Director.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, quickly, one more question, I think. Senator Anderson?
Number 8. This has nothing to do with the budget, but could you tell us roughly how many acres of timberland has been taken out of production due to solar panels and plants and all in the last year?
I do not know the current number. I will say on an annualized basis, we inventory the forest in our state on a 5-year cycle. And based off of that 5-year inventory that we do, we know with reasonable assurance that 180,000 acres a year are lost to development and to other uses. Last year, I couldn't give you just the number, but 180,000 acres annually is what's lost, is what we attribute.
Give us something to think about.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely. Our forests are much more productive than they ever have been either, though, so we're producing a lot more on a lot lesser footprint as well, so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Now, Department of Natural Resources. Department of Natural Resources, Commissioner, welcome.
How are you, sir?
I'm great.
Good.
Glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here. Glad to be here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get started, because I am new to the role, been around the state for a long time, state government, and know almost all of you, but sitting in a new role. My name is Walter Rabin, and I brought a good bit of our leadership team with you that I wanted to take just a brief second to introduce. There on the second row on the far end, you've got our two new deputy commissioners. You'll recognize Thomas Bernard. He's also been in state government for a long time and formerly served as our colonel. So we try not to call him colonel anymore and call him Thomas. And then next to him is Trevor Santos, who we were able to steal from the private sector. And he's doing a great job. And then behind them, you'll see Director of our Administrative Services, Miss Artisha Gaston. And then next to her is our Grants Unit Supervisor, Taylor Brown Fisher. And then I have another member that I'll introduce in just a few minutes. But to get into the budget, again, like the other commissioners brought up, we are very appreciative for the $1,000 supplement. Came out at a very timely portion of the year, so very appreciative for that support that you may have. If you'll look, the Department of Natural Resources can be found on pages 11 through 19, and as you get to 19, I've got Director Cowan with us as well. He will present to you the amended budget for the Environmental Protection Division and answer any of the hard questions that you may have. The first item is on page 16. It's 234.2 under our Law Enforcement Division, and this is the addition of $517,000. These funds will cover the equipment and vehicle costs for 6 additional game warden positions, as recommended by the governor. I'll be coming back to you when I present the fiscal year budget and ask you for some drivers for those vehicles. The second item that you'll see under Parks is a reduction of $55,000. That can be found on page 17, item 235.2. Again, a reduction. Also within Parks is on line 235.3 is a House addition to increase funds for part-time staff pay in the amount of around $114,500. Again, I don't have to speak to anyone in this room of how hard it is to recruit, much less retain good qualified employees these days. As we go to the Wildlife Resources Division on page 19, you'll see item 237.2. This is an increase in funds of $46,000 that will also cover equipment and vehicle costs for a training coordinator position. Again, we'll be asking for those additional funds for the actual coordinator in fiscal year 25. I know that most of you heard me mention in the joint appropriations meeting, but this figure just astounds me. 42% of the employees in the Wildlife Resources Division have 0 to 5 years of experience. So we're experiencing an enormous turnover in all divisions, but particularly in that division, and keeping them well trained is very important. Item 237.3 is an increase of funds for flood and fire hazard mitigation on Sapelo Island. That's $528,000. The Sapelo Island Heritage Authority owns several properties over there, and it's they have become overgrown, and this money would be used to decrease wildfire threats in and around the Hog Hammock community. Item 237.4 is $590,000 for environmental hazard mitigation on Ossabaw Island. While the state did purchase the island in 1978, we didn't really get full control of the island until Mrs. West's death in January of 2021. And as you can imagine, I guess since the beginning of time, when a vehicle goes over there, rarely does it leave. So it's around $590,000 for us to remove 100 vehicles or so You can imagine the scrap metal, the batteries, the debris, garbage, boats, empty tanks of motor oil and fuel that need to be removed from that island. Item 237.5 and 237.6 are yes items for us to utilize the wildlife endowment funds for hatchery renovations and for equipment purchases in our deer management assistant program. Again, the deer management assistant program's a private lands program that aid private landowners. And then most of you are very familiar with our 10 fish hatcheries across the state, and just the increase in the cost of fish food and operational costs associated with that. The fertilizer, power, and equipment have risen significantly. So that's what those funds would go for. And with that, that concludes my amended 24 budget. I'm happy to answer any questions on that, Mr. Chairman.
Questions? All right, on 237.3 for Sapelo Island, how do we get around the emoluments clause with that expenditure on land that we don't own? Is it a grant type thing, or?
Are you talking about the fire hazard mitigation?
Yes, sir.
We do own that. It's in the inventory of the Department of Natural Resources. It's just housed by, that's an administratively attached agency
Okay,
to the department.
that wasn't clear in my notes. Made it look like it was a separate entity. Any other any questions? All right.
Just a comment on the Sapelo Island. I was there this summer, Commissioner, but I'm glad to see this amount because I talked to some folks over there. There's really some hazard situation, the overgrown trees and limbs, everything all around.
Yes,
So I'm glad to see that.
thank you. One thing, as you're still looking through there, I failed to mention, you've got folders in front of you that are specific to your district. Those aren't just statewide general information type one-pagers in there. Again, they're very specific to your district. They give you some very good facts and figures of the footprint that DNR has in each district represented here in Georgia. And we're happy to follow up and answer any questions with that. But that tells you a little bit about your wildlife management areas, your public fishing areas, and many of the boat ramps that you have in your areas as well.
All right, we appreciate it, Commissioner. Now we're going to hear from EPD. Got a new director there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I'm Jeff Cowan. I'm the new director of EPD, but I've been around state government a few years, so glad to be here today. I brought some of my team with me in the back here. I think he's still there, is my deputy director, John Eunice. Also have Katie Hegarty, who's my director of policy and governmental affairs, and I have one of my budget managers, Susie Kosis, that helped me today. I appreciate this time to present EPD's amended fiscal year 24 budget, which is brief. On line 231.1, page 14, I believe, is an increase of $748,169 to support the $1,000 pay supplement for employees to help retain our good employees. This is the total funds for cost to EPD and supports all our state, federal, and other funds supported positions. So we are extremely grateful to be fully funded for the supplement, and I hope y'all agree with the governor and the House in approving that. And Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions. As I said, I'd be brief.
Wow. Good job.
I was trying to get back before Senator Ginn got back in here.
Director Dunn was never that brief, so kudos to you. Kudos to you. Any questions? I bet you we'll have a little more conversation in the next cycle. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go ahead and address the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship grants. And Commissioner, for those that, everybody may know exactly what this is, but give us just a refresher on where the funds come from this and how this
I'll be glad to
works.
give us a little bit of a background on that. And as I do, again, keep in mind that I'm here to present the slate of projects to you. And as I do that, and as you have time to look through that slate of projects, I would like to introduce Sohaila Naji. She is our program manager, and she, along with one other individual, manages this whole program. So I want you to know that it's very, very efficiently run. And then in my absence, I also forgot one other person to introduce earlier, and that's Alexis Thompson, who many of you know and see across the road here, who is helping with our public and governmental affairs this year. If you'll look, the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship was approved by Georgia voters in 2018 and became active in actually July of 2019. It's a grant and loan program that's the state's first dedicated funding mechanism to support local state parks and trails for nature-based recreation such as camping, fishing, hunting, boating, hiking, and other outdoor activities. It provides funding for stewardship of conservation land. It supports acquisition and protection of lands critical to wildlife, clean water, and military installation buffering across the state of Georgia. This trust fund is funded by the state portion of money received by the state from the sales and use tax collected by outdoor recreation equipment. Eligible applicants include qualified local governments, constituted recreation authorities, state agencies, and non-governmental entities with a primary concern of the protection and conservation of natural resources. Here's some pretty astounding facts that I'm proud to share with you today. In the past 4 cycles, the trust fund has allocated over $97 million of funding to 50 conservation and outdoor recreation projects. $97 million. Grantees have brought to the table to match these dollars $175 million. So that brings a total, quick math, $272 million of conservation projects have been accomplished in 4 funding cycles in our state. These funds have positively impacted 54 counties statewide through the acquisition of 44,000 acres of land, the creation and improvement of access to water trails and boating, as well as fishing access points, construction and improvement of green trails, the addition and rehabilitation of many campsites, and then the reforestation of wildlife habitat and stream bed restoration. For our 5th cycle, the cycle that I bring to you today, the pre-application period opened on August 1st and it closed October the 13th. Projects were reviewed, scored, and ranked by our review team in November and December in accordance with the approved evaluation criteria set by the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program Board of Trustees. The proposed slate before you consists of 13 projects totaling $21.4 million. And then I know, as you may be aware, the FY25 budget currently shows $30.3 million allotment to the program. In the last 4 cycles, the program has allocated all available funds for projects each year, which has left us with virtually no reserves in that trust fund. Because this program has the ability to fund big impact acquisition projects, the GOSA board, the Board of Trustees, felt that it was important to have a reserves available to be used for large land acquisitions as they become available, or to handle any time-sensitive projects without having to go all the way through a cycle. So the funds not allocated to the projects this year will remain in the trust funds and will be available for future funding cycles. This past January 16th, the Board of Trustees met and approved the slate of projects. The slate was then approved by the Board of Natural Resources and the House Appropriations Subcommittee on January 23rd. Again, a list of the projects and the distribution map is available there for you. So, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request your approval for this slate of the projects.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can somebody just really quick, just give us 2 seconds on each one of these? A few second description.
You feel good with that? I'll call Taylor Brown up, who has been very involved with this. You have a list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The City of Ringgold project is adding water access on the Chickamauga. City of St. Mary's is going to be a trail that goes all the way from St. Mary's to Crooked River State Park. Stops by an estuary on the way. It's a great project. Then we have a list of our in-house projects, because DNR can be an applicant. The noise cut is a previously cut through the river to help with shoaling. It's now caused damage to that river, so the feds are going through and stopping those cuts to make you go back through the normal navigation of the river. That'll be phase 2. We've actually funded $1 million for that project already. Wildlife Resources, a couple years ago, we were able to use this fund to add on to Ceylon WMA for that original purchase, so this would be just adding on another tract. Dug Down Mountain Corridor, it is a priority of the department to acquire land across that dug down area. So that would just be adding an additional tract through there. Again, with the Springbank tract, same thing for Conasauga WMA.
Let's let her get through it.
Okay.
Frank. Just remember it.
I know what county they're in. I don't know where Dugdown is. I just, for me,
There's a map attached, but
There's a map, and we can get you we should have had that on that original spreadsheet. We can get a list to you that includes the county. But that one would be in Polk.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea where Dugdown is.
That's kind of going from Paulding into Alabama. The habitat restoration on state lands, that one's going to touch several of our WMAs. I think probably about 10 maybe are included this year, but that's reforestation planting. Glenn County is on St. Simon's, the Coast Guard Beach project. That's to help with parking there, erosion along the beach, and then to add in a new Coast Guard station for safety purposes. Jekyll Island, they have a couple golf courses out there. They're looking to refurbish one into a wildlife corridor. So that's just taking 9 holes of the golf course and making it into green space. Lanier County, this is on Banks Lake, if you're familiar with that National Wildlife Refuge. They're going to do a lot of work out there with adding an RV park and then including some access to the water improvements. Pike County, this is just a recreation park. They're doing some just general improvements, adding conservation elements to that park. Trust for Public Land, they have a big initiative across the Chattahoochee to add 100 miles of river access. This would be one of those points. And we've previously funded projects adding in 4 different locations, so this would be another stop along the way.
awesome. If you would, get us a breakdown by county.
Sure can.
And then on the WMA expenditures and the PFA expenditures, kind of give us a breakdown, more detail of that. The Commissioner Rayburn, this Jekyll Island Authority thing, that sounds like a little nepotism to me.
Well, it was not nepotism. They applied before they downgraded to their former or their current executive director. I hope he's watching.
You know, the governor says he's wearing flip-flops every day to work, so I just don't know.
We had him in shoes Saturday night. You could tell he was very uncomfortable.
Okay. We're gonna have a hearing only on this today.
Okay.
We're gonna get back together shortly in the next couple weeks, so that my committee members have plenty of time to ask any questions. I've always been told on this, we have the authority to vote up or down on this slate of projects. But I do want my committee members to have all their questions answered. So thank you for presenting it. Committee folks, y'all get with them if you have for any additional information you want. And again, we'll circle up real quick in a week or two and vote on this.
Sounds great.
But thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. UJ College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Good afternoon, Dean.
Yeah, good to see you all. And today has been a very good day. We hosted the Rural Caucus Luncheon. It was really good to see a number of you there. Appreciate you being there and also having an opportunity to share about some things that are happening in the college. I would also point out a week from today is 4-H Day. We're planning on about 700 or 800 4-H kids being here next week. So hopefully you'll be seeing that. I think a couple of days later is FFA will be here, and I know you'll be talking about that. I'll spare you talking about great things happening in the college. I'll jump right in to things related to the amended budget. Everything with us is on pages 20 to 23 that you have there in front of you. I would point out lines 273.1 and 275.1. That relates to the 1,000 one-time salary supplement. I really do appreciate that. That has helped quite a bit with the employees that we have in the college and also around the state representing the work that we do in research and extension. The other thing that I would point out, and this shows up coming from the House as two lines of reduction. The first of those is 273.2 in the amount of $570,673. And then also line 275.2 in the amount of 267,767 under the label of reduced funds for personnel based on start date. So what that pertains to, last year you will remember that there was $1 million allocated for positions to support blueberries, peaches, and citrus, and that made it through, but then the governor excluded that, and so that was set aside. And then in talking and working with the governor's office over the fall, those funds were put back in. So in about October, November, we started back up and to get those in place. There's a number of them that Senator Tillery that we have going on right now down in Blueberry in your area in Alma, but those related to breeding for peach and citrus, as well as post-harvest physiology and citrus horticulture. Those are in place. They probably will not be hired and in place until about July, so in the next fiscal year. So the plan would be to put those funds in the big budget. So that's the explanation that we got from the House Budget Office in relation to those adjustments. So that's the lines that you have there pertaining to our college. Happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Questions for Dean Place? Yes, sir. Senator Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Dean. Just a shout out on cooperative extension. I just would like to remind the committee how important cooperative extension is to production agriculture in our state. And I'm glad to see that the governor's priorities were funded and the House agreed. Thank you.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Any other questions? It's getting late in the day. You drew a lucky hand.
I did, but I'd be more than happy to come back and have a conversation in the future too. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you, Dean. And last but certainly not least, ag education. Mr. Hughes, how are you today?
Good afternoon. First, thank you guys for inviting the Georgia Department of Education to speak on our amended budget for '24. My name is John Cooper. I'm the budget director for the Georgia Department of Education, and I brought with me Billy Hughes. He's our program manager for agricultural education and career tech. We have two items. I think it starts on page 7. And the first item was an add of $650,000. Again, we are appreciative of the governor adding the $1,000 supplement. This went out in late December to around 640 employees and our staff. The second item is a $288,000 reduction. In the initial budget, money was put in for a couple of three agricultural education teachers. We were able to leverage that with emergency relief funds, and those funds actually run out in September this year. That concludes our budget for the amended. I'd like to open it up for any questions that you have.
Okay, so I've got a question about the Young Farmer Program. I guess that's 135.2. Disregarded funding for 2 young farmer positions and for an oversight position. I'd like to hear from you or Mr. Hughes what has been done since last year with regard to the Young Farmer Program and the different way they're now evaluating the young farmer instructors and the measures we've talked about that y'all put in place.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. As far as the new measures, I believe that Martin talked to you and Senator Tillery earlier. Those measures that we showed to you guys have been produced. We're waiting on our policy and communications divisions to pass those, and once we pass those and the audits department accepts what we have turned in, we'll begin evaluating the young farmer teachers beginning July of 2024. So the new system that was presented to you guys will begin July of 2024.
For the committee members, so I met with the young farmer. Is his title director? Or,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's located in Tifton, and some of you may be. I think Senator Anderson's on our joint House and Senate Ag Ed committee, but we also had him present at our Ag Ed committee meeting at Camp John Hope back in probably September, maybe or
November. It was in November.
And he went over the recommendations he's made on how to review the young farmers and have more accountability and oversight of the program. And I'm hopeful that we're going to. I mean, I was impressed with the plan. As long as we implement it and execute it, I think we're going to see some better results and a better audit in the future going forward. So
yes, sir.
I hope the policy committee approves that. Is there been opportunity? You and I talk about this. I'm a broken record on this, but to maybe shift some young farmers around. Speak to us about. I think there has been one or two program districts have either decided not to continue having a young farmer or you all have decided for them not to have a young farmer.
Right. In the 5 years that I've held this position, we have taken away 3 young farmer programs and given it to other communities. And we've also, they have to go through a probationary period, for lack of a better word, in order to prove that they're able to meet the standards that we currently have. And there's been 2 that we have not pursued any further. They were not able to meet the basic recommendations, so we didn't go any further with them.
Okay. Thank you. Questions from the committee? I don't see any questions, so thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Any other business to come before us today? All right, I don't see anybody, so if not, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.